Just a quick note, in this episode, I'll be giving a lot of technical information, model numbers and names and things like that. All that information with links to those products can be found at coyotetrappingschool.com/filming. Make it one spot where all that stuff is easy to access. So if you got any questions about any specific items that I talk about in the podcast, coyotetrappingschool.com/filming. Go there and you'll see links to it and what those specifically are. Hey y'all, welcome to the Coyote Trapping School podcast, episode number 19. Today we're going to talk about kind of my camera setup and how how I've done all this, producing my videos and all over the past 5 years. December is going to be 5 years since I first started my YouTube channel, and that's kind of crazy to think about. But first off, I want to say, again, I really appreciate everybody that leaves comments, ratings, and reviews. On iTunes, got one from Brad Babyak in October. Awesome information. I download every podcast and listen to them while I'm out on the line or in the fur shed. I listen to them every day. Every time I listen, I pick up some new information. Keep them coming. Great job. That's exactly what I intend to do, man. Comments like that fire me up because it's, I don't know, sometimes just the grind, and I know it sounds kind of silly, but the grind of trying to keep all this going, working a full-time job and managing family, trapping season's coming up, and making sure I can get all this stuff prepared and produced and all. It feels good, and just the outpouring of comments and emails that I get of people that it's their first year and they're gearing up and getting ready to get out on the trap line, or I get emails from older trappers that say I hadn't been able to trap in a while, my health is not great, but I'm going to try to get back after it. But I appreciate you sharing and helping me kind of live vicariously, and it's very satisfying. So I appreciate y'all tuning in and leaving comments and kind of keeping me going. So let's dive in. I don't know how interested anybody out there is in filming their trap line or producing content for a YouTube channel. I know I get several people here and there that will message me, wanting me to check out their channel, check out their video, and they hope that they can grow an audience, kind of like my audience has grown. I'm not going to say I've grown it, but my audience has grown. So I figured it might be worthwhile. I know when I was getting ready to dive off into this, I searched all over the place to try to figure out what was the best option for videoing and recording good audio and trying to produce a high quality show, high quality content that was valuable. And I spent a lot of time, and couldn't find anybody really in the trapping world that was talking about it. And it was kind of discouraging, even watching some of the trapping videos that you can buy. Some of them look like they were filmed on my dad's old video recorder. It's like, this is terrible quality. And so I didn't want to do that. And even on YouTube, folks filming with their cell phone cameras and stuff, which honestly, the trend seems to be less people appreciate kind of the genuineness and less processing. And some of the platforms like Instagram TV, IGTV, and Facebook, they're kind of tailoring their content their platforms towards mobile production. And part of that is with the new phones that are coming out, that's getting so easy to produce high quality content with your phone, and so that's helping too. But anyway, like I said, I mainly what I went off of was a bunch of different hunting channels and looking at different folks like the Gritty Bowman. He did some early on, and he still does it periodically, but some recommendations, reviews, and guidelines as far as what he uses. And so anyway, that's what I kind of wanted to dive into. And so first off, the very first thing that I got, and I spent a lot of time researching this, and there's still a good many of kind of the professional I guess you say, professional YouTubers, really. There's a lot of guys that seem to continue to shoot with, this is a DSLR camera. So it's a digital, I don't remember what SLR stands for, but it's a camera, high quality camera. And one of the reasons I liked this was because in the past I've done some article writing, and you know, when I was in Alaska trapping, and just some of the different opportunities that I've had in my past, man, I had a camera, but it tended to be a cheap camera, and I really always wanted, as I was younger, a good quality camera that I could take pictures with, take real high quality pictures with. And so, you know, this served two purposes. Now, granted, I hadn't been writing many articles lately. I've been producing all online content, and but it was kind of the best of both worlds. It served well because I've been able to take family portraits, and you know, I take it when we go on vacation and things like that. And so this is a Nikon D7000, and if you start researching, you know, there's folks that are diehard Nikon and diehard Canon. I had a good friend of mine that was a photographer, and he was super technical about all the different aspects. And you know, he shot Nikons, and I actually got some of my lenses from him. And so that was what kind of swayed me, honestly. I messed around with some of his cameras, and kind of that's what I knew, and so that's what I went with. And that's what, you know, that's what you do a lot of times. This camera is capable of doing way more than I know how to do with it. There's so many technical things, and that's one of the things that one of the selling points for, you know, somebody that's really into videography, really into photography, is there's so many ways that you can manipulate your picture and your background, and you know, blur the background and really make the image pop, and you know, manually focus on different things, and so that's one of the selling points. And like I said, I can do a little bit with it, but I can nowhere near take advantage of the full capabilities of this camera, and that's something I would love to do more of. I just hadn't put the time into it, honestly. Another, you know, some of the benefits. One reason, this is a Nikon D7000. There's a whole line of them and they'll rate them as like consumer grade, and then what they call prosumer. So kind of not the generic, you know, one that all the soccer moms got out when they're taking pictures of their kids. Those tend to be a little bit smaller and not quite have as many features. Then the prosumer is a little bit more features, and then you got the professional grade cameras that are expensive, and but you know, have a lot of capabilities. So this is kind of middle of the pack, and I actually wound up, I bought the body separate. One of the pluses is you can interchange the lenses, so you can get a telescoping lens, you can get a close-up lens, and so I've got just my the lens that I do when I film with this. You know, 95% of picture taking and filming was with a 18 to 135 zoom lens, so it's got a little bit of zoom to it. You can still get in close, fairly close. You don't have to, you know, some of the fixed lenses, like this 50mm lens, you have to back off farther than you would expect sometimes to get everything in the frame like you want. The reason at the time, and like I said, I've had this camera 5 years. I started my YouTube channel in December of 2013, and that's when I bought this camera. And one of the selling points was it was one of the few models, the few like prosumer grade models that had a metal body. Most of them had a plastic body, and I liked the metal body. I paid a little bit more for it, and I can't tell you honestly. I mean, I think I've dropped it once, and I try to be semi-careful with it. I mean, most people would probably panic if they saw the situations that I put it in. But it's held up good. It's held up to, you know, misting and things like that. I haven't really had it out in a downpour or anything like that. But one of the good things about it, it's got 2 SD card slots. So all of my camera equipment uses SD cards, and we'll shoot HD video. So that was another important thing. And especially 5 years ago, that was just when kind of HD video was just coming. Probably out more so, but that was something that you had to consider. So I wanted to make sure we're shooting HD. 2 card slots, because HD, and even more so nowadays with the 4K, those files can get really big if you're filming for any length of time. And so 2 card slots, just so you've got a backup memory card, and then 2, you know, if you fill one up, which I've got a range of cards, 128 gigs and then 64s, and just the little bit more expensive ones. I try to spend a little bit more money and get quality ones, just because of, you know, being on the Trapline and the things that I put them through. So let's see what else. One of the things that this camera, in selecting this one, that I didn't have the ability to do was it's got a screen here, so when you flip it to video mode, the only way you can look is through this screen, and so you can't see it from behind. You know, a lot of the newer ones will have a separate screen. This screen you can flip out and turn around, so if you're self-filming, you can get around on the other side and see if you're out of the frame. And so initially what I had to do was I would set the camera up, start filming, walk over in front of the camera, do kind of a mic check, test, come back, stop it, play it to make sure that everything was okay, and then do it again. And that got time consuming and frustrating. And so I wound up purchasing this separate screen viewfinder thing. And so it hooks up through a HDMI cable. And so what I could do is I had to kind of goose everything up, but I had to get this additional adapter because I was also using a separate microphone. I wasn't using the camera microphone. Initially, I was using this wireless mic, a Samsung wireless mic, and this was a lavalier mic, and so this portion I would attach with Velcro to the tripod and turn it on, and then this portion I have a little microphone clip that I would clip somewhere around my face and then tuck this in my pocket or something, and that way I was ensuring that I was getting good quality video or good quality audio, because that's, you know, that's half or more of the content. If you're 15 feet away or 15 yards away making a set, and you know people can see what you're doing but they can't hear what you're saying, then you're either gonna have to voice over in processing or reshoot it, and I wanted to avoid that, because that was one of the things that I noticed, and one of the things in trying to produce quality content, I wanted to make sure I had good audio. So I had to get this thing, because also after that I used this for a couple of years and then wound up switching to the a Rode Video Mic Pro that I've actually got, and that's what's recording the audio right now, and that's what I use. But all that stuff goes on the camera. And so I had to get this extra adapter because the video mic will slip in here. And so if you're shooting, you know, if you're shooting somebody else, you can, you know, plug that in, hook that up, and it's still a relatively compact scenario. But when you've got this, the screen, you've got the mic, you've got to add some things on it. So it looked like some kind of contraption with my screen so that I could see what I was doing on the other side, and then my mic on the side. And, you know, most of the time I had this in a trapping situation. I'll show some pictures, but, you know, the first year that I was trapping, I was in Arkansas, and I was trapping doing a lot of beaver trapping in beaver swamps, and my tripod would be sitting in 4 feet of water, and all this stuff is sitting, you know, a foot out of the water. I'm thinking, man, you know, I got a lot invested in this. I sure hope everything holds up. So, and it did, thank goodness. But anyway, I don't remember where I was going with that, but that's one of the pluses. That's something I would definitely consider now, which, you know, this DSLR camera frame is a large bodied camera frame, and now, you know, a big trend is for the mirrorless cameras, which are a lot smaller, but you can still use the interchangeable lenses. I don't have any experience with those, so I can't say one way or the other, but I definitely read reviews, and I would look at those hard just because of the weight and size savings that those could give you over a DSLR. So that's that, and definitely look for one that a camera with a screen that folds out so that you can see what you're doing if you're self-filming, so that you don't have to be wasting a lot of time. Because I'll be honest with you, trying to film the Trapline, unless you're just, you know, filming a quick spot with your phone or something, as soon as you get out, if you make a catch, shoot it, and then, you know, get on about your business. Trying to film and do all this slows things down tremendously. because if you make a catch, or you know, planning out, because like I said, I want to provide value. I don't just want to be showing the highlight reel and the catches, and I want to show what I'm doing and how I'm thinking about things. And so thinking about that and taking the extra time to, all right, I'm going to set up the camera here, make sure that the lighting's good, I don't have shadows blocking me. I mean, it gets pretty complicated pretty quick, things that I never thought about beforehand. And then also, it's definitely time consuming, and you're going to struggle to be a high production trapper and video your content and produce good high quality content. It's kind of one or the other, and so that's yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I could still run a good trap line. I've never been a high production trapper. Our furs in the South don't warrant hard charging that hard after things. So I feel like this is a good, you know, I've worked out a pretty good medium. I enjoy documenting and producing the content, and so, but that's something definitely to keep in mind. Is if you've got somebody else filming, that's a whole different story, because you can do your thing and they can do their thing, and it all goes smooth. But when you're doing it all yourself, it takes a lot more time than you anticipate. So that is what I was using. Another thing, and it seems like the GoPro craze has passed somewhat, but you know, I'm 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, GoPros were all the rage, and I got a GoPro. It's a Hero 3. It's one of the older models. I know they got several generations since then, and probably improved a lot. The most notable thing I can tell you about these is they call it an action camera, and that's what it is. It you know, it's got such a wide field of view, and you know, if you got it in this housing, and some of the newer ones, the mics are probably a little bit better. There's no good spot to put a microphone on this thing. And then, you know, with the housing, they've got like the naked housing now or something like that, and so you don't have to lock it into this. But you know, the majority of things that you see GoPros with are action shots of, you know, 2-second, 5-second clips here and there, and it's jumping around. It's not. They aren't designed, in my opinion, to be documenting and filming and creating with. It's a good add-on, and so I'll definitely use it sometimes, you know, to try to get a close-up shot. It's easy to throw up if I'm trying to, you know, make a set and I want to have that in, or get another angle, or you know, stick something out the car window and get a truck window and get a low shot or something like that. I mean, it's handy to have. But if you're evaluating and trying to plan out, you know, what you want and how you want things, I wouldn't put that at the top of the list by any means. So now, after that, and I will say, let me grab my tripod real quick. So one thing, I bought this tripod when I first started too, and I spent like $200. I didn't even realize it. My dad's always videoed. He's had a video camera ever since I can remember, and a tripod, and so I never really considered. But you know, my buddy that was into photography and all, you know, he tended to use quality stuff, and quality stuff costs. And so he talked me into getting this tripod, and I didn't realize that on high end, you know, photography stuff, you buy the tripod and then you buy the head separately. So this is like a $200 tripod outfit that I never dreamed I would have. But it's all Manfrotto. It's a Manfrotto aluminum base that extends out, and then it's a Manfrotto microfluid head. So I try to focus and spend money on the fluid head, you know, thinking that would be good for videoing. I'm self-filming for the most part, so I don't really ever use that feature, but I've got it, and so it served me well. And one thing I'll say, you know, right now I've got my camera and all set up, and it's actually what I'm filming this on is my Samsung Galaxy S9 smartphone that I've just got in the last month and a half or so. I was plinking along with a Galaxy S5 for a long time, and it served me well, but it was aging, and I really wanted something that I could that could produce better videos and things like that I could run with my Trapline this year. And so I'm still getting the hang and figuring out all the tricks and tweaks of this S9, but you'll see the video. I think it's living up to my expectations, and I anticipate using it a pretty good bit on the Trapline, you know, particularly for some live stuff, hopefully on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. But the one thing that I will say is I found out with this, because I think I got the tripod that the phone's on right now, I think I got it at Walmart for like 15 bucks on sale. 15 versus 200, that's kind of no-brainer, right? But when I take this camera body, which is pretty heavy, especially if I put a zoom lens on it, that cheap tripod won't hold it. That sucker will tip right over. And this, you know, you can lock everything down with this and it'll hold a large lens hanging off the end of your camera. Now, unless you're really getting into photography and long-range photography, that's probably not a huge selling point for you. But I did want to throw that in there, that, you know, I got this stuff from B&H Photo, and getting some used stuff, because like I said, I mean, I've had this thing this deep in swamp water. Getting some good quality used stuff would be definitely something to look into. But I don't regret spending the money on that. That's going to last me a long time. So up to last December, I was using the DSLR, and then Christmas time I upgraded. I got this Panasonic camcorder. So the one concern I had was I didn't want, you know, especially the older camcorder models, you could see that it was, you know, you could tell it was a camcorder, and I didn't like that. I liked, you know, the DSLR with the HD was shooting real high quality, and I didn't want to get that camcorder feel. I wanted to get a high quality, high production look feel, and so I wound up getting this Panasonic. It's a HCWXF991. That's the model number. But it's capable of shooting 4K video, and that's one thing that I was really interested in. I'll talk more about that in a minute. There's several good big perks that I liked about this camera. One being the screen. I can flip that thing around and get different angles on it. So now I'm self-filming. I can set this thing up and I can spin it around, and I can walk out there and see where I'm at. I like that. One of the things that I also looked for was I wanted a hot shoe mount. That's what my microphone slips into to hold it in place. So I definitely wanted that in a camcorder. Got that, and then it plugs into the audio jack there. It's only got one SD card slot, which I'm not crazy about, but you know, I'm not doing things remote, and so I can keep SD cards in my truck. It's not that big of a deal. It does have this separate camera so that I can kind of picture in picture. I can show what's in front of me. I can also get my face. I haven't really used that any, but it's kind of neat. And it's also got a Wi-Fi capability where you can somehow Wi-Fi in your smartphone. So I can have my smartphone set up videoing something, and then I can be videoing something with this, and I can also be watching my face's reaction, and you can get some multiple picture-in-picture things going on. I've never done that much, but that's one neat thing about it. The battery, I was a little bit concerned about the battery life. Only having one battery, I like to have backups. But with this, it's pretty handy, because when you turn it on and you're videoing, and then you stop videoing and you just shut this, it kind of goes into sleep mode. And so a battery will last a long time, I figured out, and I like that a lot. And then it'll also, you can also take pictures with it, and it takes good pictures. You got to kind of tinker around with it. The screen is all touchscreen, which is a little bit finicky. You kind of got to press not exactly center of where it looks, and the screen is not very big, obviously. So, but overall, this is so much easier than carrying around this thing with a mic on top of it, with a screen on top of it. You know, I can jump out of the truck with this thing, video what I want to video, real quick and easy. I can turn it around on myself if I want to, and do a little self video. And you know, I can slip it in a big pocket if I need to. So I'm really, really happy with the upgrade to this, you know, camcorder style. Because this, you know, this camera, when I would be filming in the truck, trying to film driving up on a catch, you know, I'm filming, holding this thing like this, driving, and I mean, you're holding it with your hand like this, whereas this, it sits, you know, it kind of cradles in your hand, and it's easy to hold, and it's a lot. So I do like that, definitely like that. It's got a good zoom on it. I've been super happy with that. And I would recommend, if you're interested in getting into it, you know, look at Campbell Cameras. Is a company that their stuff is a little bit more high end. I mean, they kind of cater to more professional videographer, which I do not consider myself at all. But you know, their kind of niche is in the whitetail and deer hunting space, or hunting space, and you know, they will set you fully up with a camera that and the outfit to, you know, self-film deer hunts or film your buddy's deer hunts or things like that. So I spend a lot of time looking around on their site and kind of looking at reviews and stuff. But I really like the camcorder. It produces good quality. One thing I will say is the 4K. You know, I got this, and so anything I shot after January 1st, I shot on this. In my first video I produced, I did it in 4K because I was like, man, this is awesome. This is the wave of the future, right? My TV is 4K. What I didn't realize is that takes tremendous amount of processing, and so it took my video production software on my computer a lot longer just to process the video. So what I do is I'll you know, shoot all these separate clips throughout the day, and then bring them back at night and put them all together in a program called Power Director. CyberLink Power Director is the program that I use, and I'll put them all together, and then you have to produce the video. So when you produce the video, it merges all those small clips into one continuous, you know, video movie, I guess you could say. And so with the file size of those 4K files, it was taking a lot longer to do that than I had anticipated. And yeah, I'm doing this at like 11 o'clock at night after I've checked the Trapline, worked all day, come home, try to spend a little bit of time with the family, put my son to bed, then come out and skin, and then go in and try to get all this stuff tied together, finished off, and try to upload and get a little bit of sleep. And so I finally got through that and got the video produced. And then I went to upload it, and I don't have the fastest internet in the world, and it took like 2 days to upload the video. I was so bent out of shape, it was just taking forever. And it's just because that's such a huge file size. Is it 4,000 times the resolution of standard HD? So it's super huge. And then when I got thinking about it, when you get thinking about it, you know, most folks aren't watching, or a lot of folks aren't watching this on their 4K TV. They're watching YouTube on their phone or on their computer, on their iPad. A lot of that stuff, and it's changing more now, but a lot of that stuff is not 4K compatible. So a lot of people really don't get the real impact or the real feel. And honestly, I was actually reading some articles about whether our eyes can actually see in 4K, and I think the difference is kind of negligible. You know, when you go to like Best Buy or somewhere and you see the 4K videos, and it's just, man, it's popping and it looks like you're standing in the middle of a forest or something. I think, you know, they picked those to produce that awe and amazing feel. You know, run-of-the-mill stuff. I've tried to watch that video. I mean, it uploaded everything in 4K, and I've tried to watch it, and I struggle to really be able to pick out the difference or see how dramatically different it is. So since then, I haven't done anything more in 4K. And like I said, looking back personally, I wouldn't put a lot of emphasis on that right now. One of the good things about it is because it is so high resolution. If you're filming something far off, like if you're filming somebody else, or just general wildlife viewing or something, and you're filming something far off and you're zoomed in all the way on the camera, you can come back, and as you're processing, and I can't tell you how to do this because I've never done it, but you can actually zoom in and keep good resolution. The picture doesn't start to get grainy or anything because it's so high quality, and so you can kind of do an additional zoom in your production and bring that image, whatever you were filming, in better. So the jury, in my opinion, is out on 4K. Don't expect to see anything 4K out of me anytime soon until we get faster internet and I get a faster computer probably. So that will bring us to the last thing is my computer. You know, I've got an older computer. I've got to upgrade it. But these videos take a lot of memory. And so I've run into the situation where I can't save any more videos onto my computer, or I can't produce the video because I may be putting 15 gigs worth of data from a card onto the computer, and then I'm trying to produce that into another video that should be, it's going to be pretty hefty if you're combining all that. And so my computer now is a terabyte of storage, which is 1,000 gigs, I think, 1,000 gigabytes. And I've got an external hard drive that I store stuff on. I got a 4 gig external hard drive that I store some of that stuff on. And then I also have a Google Drive account where I'll try to save some of that stuff in the cloud. It doesn't work that great because my internet is relatively slow. So, but my production process, like I said, I use CyberLink Power Director, and that again is kind of like these cameras. It can do way more than I actually am capable of doing with it. But I've kind of figured out, and it does more. When I first started, I was just using the generic, it's Windows Movie Maker that comes on all Windows devices, I guess. And then I think it's not GarageBand, but I think Apple has its own kind of generic editing software that comes on Apple devices. But I did upgrade to the Power Director, and I've been really happy with it. Like I said, it does more than what I needed to do. It's more than capable of doing what I needed to do. And but what I do is I'll get home, I'll take all my files and I'll save them into a folder for that day if I'm doing my daily Trapline run. So I keep everything outlined by each day. Then pull those, I save them to my hard drive. Then I'll pull those into my editing software, edit them together how I need to, and then produce the video and export that out. And then in shuffling that, if I have to shuffle some files, I'll try to take, like at the end of the month, and take all those files and put them on my external hard drive and free up that hard drive space on my computer, so I don't run into 11 o'clock at night and I'm trying to shift files around so I can produce a video. I say all that to say, just if you are buying a computer, Walmart has some pretty cheap, some pretty good deals on computers sometimes. But man, look at that. Look at how big the storage is, because if you're getting a cheap computer that doesn't have much storage, you're gonna have headaches and run into issues with that. So, and then also I do use Audacity. So one thing I'll do, well, I'll tell you what, I'll get into this in the next episode. I'll talk about producing content for YouTube and kind of the how I look at, and if you're considering producing content and you want to try to produce and start a YouTube channel, Facebook, IGTV, whatever, talk about that. So hope this was helpful. Hope some of you take some of this away, and I hope some of you are gonna do some video. And if nothing else, just the documenting that I know, and I get it from my dad, I know probably, but down the line, me and my son, or him and his son maybe, we'll watch the videos of us on the Trapline, and him, being a little fella, and his reaction and all. It's, just for me to be able to go back and look at that, it's going to be pretty awesome. So I will tell you, I had one instance in particular that really stands out in my mind. Is he was running the Trapline with me, and we were trapping on a cattle farm, and we had messed around up the top of the pond. That may have been when I called him my chief water officer. He was messing around in the water, and anyway, we got out and we were walking back towards the truck, and we were walking. It was kind of some tall grass, and he had his rubber boots on. Of course, his feet were wet and all. And he was holding my hand, trying not to trip on the grass and all. And we were just walking through there, and part of me wanted to take a video of that or take a picture of that or something. But then part of me just wanted to stay there and live in the moment, because that was something he'll never remember, but I'll never forget. And it kind of, you have to kind of meter yourself, I would say. And I guess I'm probably older school than some of the folks, the generation that's growing up, my son even, that's growing up with all this stuff. But you're trying to produce content and you want to capture as much as you can, but some of that stuff you want to hold back for yourself, And I think about that a lot. That, man, what I wouldn't have given to have somebody else there, that I never had to think about it. I never had to say, hey, will you video this? but have somebody else there that could have captured that, even just a picture. But like I said, at the same time, that's a fond memory that I'll hold on to as long as I'm around. So anyway, hope you're at least considering documenting your trap line and running along, and regardless of what your intentions are. And I hope this is helpful. If you're new to trapping, new to the podcast, you can go and check out coyotetrappingschool.com/bonus, I believe it is. And that is a PDF, downloadable PDF ebook, introduction to trapping, to kind of get you started. If you're just starting from ground zero, it's very basic, but what traps you set for what animals, what you need to do to those traps, what else you need besides traps. So that's what I'm all about, is trying to get people trapping. If they're interested, help them get started trapping. And if you're already trapping, I want to help you to become a better trapper and enjoy it, because that's what I'm after. I'm after becoming a better trapper and enjoying every minute of it, and I'm doing that right now. So thank y'all for following along, and we'll catch you next time. Real quick, one thing I forgot to mention, I use these Pelican cases for running the trap line, and a lot of my trap line now I run out of my truck, so it's not as big of a deal. When I started and I was running a water trap line out of either a kayak or my boat, or even walking in, man, these things, the ability to customize the inside and have all your stuff secure and safe in there. And what I did on some of my sets were I had a sled that would float, and so I would walk in waders, and I'd have that sled, and I'd throw this thing in that sled. I knew the sled tipped over, this thing was watertight, and all my stuff was going to be safe. I've got two sizes. I've got this 1400 and I've got a 1500. Incidentally, both of these were given to me. I may have bought this used from my buddy. I think it was given to me. It didn't have the inserts though. So I went on Amazon and for like 20 bucks, 15 bucks, I got the inserts, the blank inserts, so I could reform it. So if you're interested, if this is something you're considering, I would definitely think about spending some money on a good case, depending on what your trapping rig's like and how you're trapping. If you're running out of a bug gear off a four-wheeler, I definitely think it's something worth considering. And be on the lookout at yard sales, eBay, something like that. If you can find one that doesn't have the inserts, you can probably get it a lot cheaper than buying a new one, and then just buy the inserts and be ready to rock and roll. So wanted to include that. We'll catch you next time. One thing that I realized I forgot to address in talking about the different equipment and stuff that I've used or have used for videoing is lighting. So this new camera, the Panasonic Camcorder that I've got, it's got a pretty bright light on the front of it, and you can set it to turn on automatically if it senses there's not enough light. And so I've actually been pretty pleased and pretty impressed. I haven't really had to use any additional lighting other than what's available. Speaking of which, it's amazing. You don't really think about it. Think about the difference that it makes, but every little bit of extra lighting, and especially when you get a big old shiny surface like I do, you notice some lighting more than others. But that's another thing in trying to produce something that's good, professional quality. That's something that a lot of times can be overlooked, or when you're trying to do something educational or informative, having things as clear and as easy to see as possible is a big plus. So with the DSLR, when I was running the DSLR, it's got a little pop-up flash, but in general, and you can adjust. That's kind of the positive and negative is you can adjust your aperture and your heck, I can't even think of all the technical terminology, but you can kind of adjust it to take into account that if there's not enough light, you can open the aperture, I guess. Y'all forgive me if you're diehard camera folks, because I'm very newbie, but you can adjust it to where it takes in more light, and so it gives the video effect, or the photo specifically, effective more light. The problem is if you're shooting on auto mode, for video anyway, self-filming, I struggled with that in low light, because if I didn't have something when I was setting up the camera to kind of go ahead and try to get the camera to focus on, then when I walk in, it didn't necessarily always pick me up and focus on me. So I struggled with, and in the outside, typically I didn't have an issue. Most of the time when I had an issue, I was inside in my shed trying to do some film and trying to do some video, and the video quality was just poor because I lacked lighting. So I had, to start with, I had lamps and stuff that I had plugged up and kind of turned and focused and opened the windows if it was daylight. And I actually wound up getting 2 of these big, these are just kind of a cheaper stand light. So these come with a stand that they mount on, and these are the bulbs. I didn't expect them to be crazy big, but it all come, these shades and stuff, and then the stands come in a small package, and that you just plug them in. And I got 2 of them with that package. The Limo Studio is what they are. And they're relatively cheap, and they work really good. They take up a lot of room if you're in kind of a small shed. It was hard for me to keep them out of the frame and still kind of get the light, but that took some adjusting and messing with to try to get that. So but that was one thing that I also wanted to cover, because particularly with the DSLR, I did struggle with that in certain situations of not having enough light and trying to compensate for that in some way or the other. And these came in really handy. A lot of times I was able to just use one and try to position it to you know, and not necessarily think that it needs to be high and up, you know, maybe put it low and pointing up or something. You got to be careful, because you don't want to cast shadows and make things look awkward or blind people. But at the same time, you know, trying to give adequate light and so you can see what you're trying to portray. So something to definitely at least keep in mind and consider. They make all kinds of, you know, they make little light rings that go around your around the lens of your camera if you're using like a DSLR, and I think those probably work pretty good for like interview style or you know, something like this. But you know, out in the field, that, you know, if you're videoing trapping or hunting or something like that, it's not gonna be as beneficial. But still, just something to think about, as if there's not already enough. Just one other thing to think about it. This one thing through this process that I've really seen is, and you kind of appreciate why there's so many videos that aren't spectacular qualities, because there's really a lot that goes into making it, you know, something of quality. Not, and like I said, I don't consider my videos very high quality. I try to make them not poor quality, but you know, there's some sure enough high production stuff that's really awesome, and I'm, you know, maybe trying to work my way there a little bit, but it's a lot more that goes into it than you think initially, and there's always something else. And when you get something figured out, then you adjust, or something changes, and you know, there's something else to be thinking about. Kind of like with trapping, you know, there's always that new kind of trap or new tool or something like that you can always kind of go down a rabbit hole of venturing in. But anyway, with that, I'll officially wrap it up, and hope this was useful. Thanks for watching and listening.